What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another new episode. Finally, we're back of the Last Wave podcast. If you're new here, we deal with topics like ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, conspiracies, pretty much anything under the paranormal umbrella. Now, today I am running solo. It's been an absolute toll just this past month. My family's been sick. I was sick. A lot of stuff going around. Now Buster, I'm running solo today because Buster's sick. So hopefully this coming week, maybe after Easter, we can get back to rolling every week with brand new episodes. We have so much stuff that we have researched and put together. I've got a really groundbreaking episode, at least I think it's groundbreaking episode coming up. So after this, just be prepared. We're going to have a lot of stuff. I want us to do a couple episodes on just random gods and random pantheons throughout history and through the ages. I think that's going to be super cool. But yeah, got a lot to do. But today is just going to be an interesting little episode. Again, it's just me running solo, so it's a little bit harder to do a full-time episode by yourself. So today, I really wanted to touch on this Trump mess and how it's just a distraction for something else. But before we get all into that, we also have some biblical stuff we're going to talk about. Before we get into that, I want to do a quick ad for my newest sponsor to our podcast, Mr. Gaming Lounge. So I'm going to play that now, and then it's going to be a short break, and we'll be right back to it. Just a minute or two, and we'll be right back. What's up, everybody? I want to take a second to give a big shout out to our newest sponsor, Mr. Gaming Lounge. Now, if you listen to any of our other stuff, you know I'm pretty close and pretty well involved in the nerd culture. We enjoy nerdy things. So when I heard there was a new gaming store opening in my area, had to check it out. Found out a friend of mine works there. Popped in, really awesome place in downtown Newton, North Carolina. Super nice guys working there. And it's actually a video game store, but it's also a play-by-the-hour store. So they have really nice new PCs and everything set up. So you can go in there and test out some of the most popular games. You've got your Fortnite, your Apex Legends, that kind of stuff, all set up and ready to go. They've got a VR room, which was pretty sick. Let's see, we've got some stuff here for sale. They've got tons and tons of stuff. Everything from PS5s to, as you can see in the back, they've got vintage games, retro stuff, all kinds of stuff. They got some nice GameCube stuff. Gotta love a good GameCube Paper Mario. That's awesome. Thousand Year Door especially. It's a little bit pricey, but that's one of the best GameCube games for sure. But yeah, they also got a store full of statues and really awesome gaming just memorabilia. So super worth checking out. Again, that's the Mr. Gaming Lounge, and it's in Newton, North Carolina. They've got tons more than I could even show. They got plushies, statues, Funko Pops, a whole bunch of stuff. Go check them out. Look them up on Facebook. Give them a like, and see what they're about. All right, what's up, everybody? We're back again. Last Wave podcast. And again, if you're new here, we dive into pretty much everything paranormal, occult, conspiracy, that kind of thing. And today I wanted to touch real quick. Well, first off, this image. I think we've touched on this before. This is just a really cool map to have up. But it's also one of those maps that shows how California looks really weird. Like, everything just looks weird. And some old maps, I know this is the lower portion of California, but some maps have California as like a whole island out here and that kind of mess. That's if we haven't talked about that, then we will on the episode, because that goes deep and you start getting into old world stuff. But today, a lot going on in the news lately, and the only thing that's going on is this Trump mess with the whole, whoever he's owing money to, whatever he did with his money. I don't know. I try not to watch the news, but obviously you get it here and there. I'm on Twitter a lot now, so if you are missing the show, or if we have to have take a week off or so, hit us up on Twitter. You can always comment on one of our latest videos. That pops up straight to us or straight to me, and we love interacting with you guys, interacting with the listeners. That is super fun to us. So if we're not getting getting content out there, we have other areas where you can check out what we're up to. So again, this Trump mess, okay? This seems to be obviously a political issue of why they're going after him now. And I mean, we had, I don't think they went after former people, in the Civil War. So, I mean, this is like a really groundbreaking thing to go after a political opponent, you know, in this way. So, this is it's a very, very interesting time and very interesting thing that's happening. Now, it's also ironic, of course, that, even though this was all stuff that was talked about years ago, it's just coming up now, which just happens to be like the week that the US dollar is starting to change. And it's starting to, we're starting to lose the Federal Reserve backing. I know, as far as I know, and this is what's all over social media, all over the internet right now, except for on the mainstream news, of course, because all they're doing is focus on Trump, is apparently the US dollar has gone from US Federal Reserve dollars to US Treasury dollars, which is apparently what JFK wanted to do in his presidency, and he wanted to do that. He came out with that shortly before he was removed from office. So it's weird that we're not part of the Federal Reserve or whatever. Now, there's a lot of circumspection or whatever, and some people are saying, "Oh my gosh, finally, this is really great." Some people are, doomsaying, saying this is the worst thing that could happen, and we're all going to, you know, be a third world country in like 2 months. Maybe, because I think, as far as I can obtain, what's happening is the yuan is going to be the new world general currency instead of the US dollar. Now, what this means for our debt, for our monetary system as it is, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be great because we still owe a lot of money to a lot of people. And now we're seeing videos coming out also on social media regarding Janet Yellen and stuff that she's been saying in congressional hearings, about increasing taxes by like $50 billion or some absurd numbers. And she's just like, yes, that does seem to be the plan. or she'll say something, like, well, that's not the exact amount, but, so I think we're seeing a lot of things that are happening that are just below the water, just below the surface. And of course, the mainstream TV news outlets are all focusing on the surface itself. But like this stuff that's happening with the dollar, that's happening just out in the open. You've got Russia, Iran, China, or I don't know about Russia yet, but I know China, Saudi Arabia, I believe Brazil, a couple other countries are forming these alliances to do trade on what's called the BRICS system, which is going to be a new world system for monetary transactions and that sort of nature. And that basically, for now at least, is leaving the American dollar or the American system out of it. So we're not part of that agreement yet. Now, maybe we be in the future, maybe when Trump comes in, maybe, and we'll still be taking, I feel like either way, we're going to be taking a giant step back for a little bit. Like our economy is just going to get really bad for a while until we get back on our feet just as a normal country, because the yuan and other denominations around the world, they're not collapsing. Well, some of them are, which is weird that Brazil is in this agreement with these other countries, because Brazil was one of the places that really, really collapsed, and people were like eating dogs in the street. Like, they were just putting their money out in the road. Like, I mean, it was terrible. That's what I assumed a lot of these people were coming up from South America through the border. That's what I assumed they were coming from, is just that horrible stuff. So, and again, I don't think we're told that enough. Like, I know we keep having these immigrant caravans, migrant caravans, whatever you want to call them, but why? Is that why? Is that because they're just stuff has collapsed? Is they because they had an earthquake, so they all migrated north? I mean, we just keep having hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people show up. So what is happening to the areas where these people are coming from? You know, are these areas being bought up for oil? Are they purchasable? You know, because it seems like land would probably be pretty dirt cheap wherever a couple 100,000 people are leaving. You know, so I think that's something that not one person I've ever heard, or I've heard in the last, I don't know, 5-6 years has mentioned anything about that. As to where, I mean, we hear about earthquakes, and we hear about how bad Brazil's collapsed, but that's it. Other than that, I don't know, but that's something to look into for another episode. So again, I think, and this is one of my personal opinions, is I'm not really sure that Trump is what he says he is. I find him to be more of, I don't know. I've seen a lot of stuff both ways. I've seen a lot of people saying he's like, he's the greatest thing to ever happen. I've seen people saying he's the Antichrist and listing like 30 something reasons as to why he could be the Antichrist. And this situation that's happening could be the great wound that he recovers from, you know, unless he's going to get an assassination attempt or something like that. But that could be the great wound that he recovers from and then comes back to win the election and goes on to do a bunch of stuff. So I'm probably leaning more that way, or at least more that he's in on this whole shebang. He's in on something, because you don't just hang out with people for 10, 15 years. They're giving you money, you donate money to them, you're taking pictures at parties, and all of a sudden you absolutely hate each other. I mean, that can happen, but it just seems weird, you know? And a lot of people pointed that out, but again, I think it's all a stage. I think it's mostly a show, and pretty much a lot of them are involved in it because, and again, this is kind of interesting that I picked an older map, not, you know, older than this is where I'm going, but I was listening to, but that's pretty much my final thought is it's all a show, and that's going to branch into the second part of this episode. So bear with me, please. I do think it's all a show, and I think that because, actually, well, I mean, I think that for a lot of reasons, but it was just interesting the other day. I was listening to an audiobook on Jesus and that time frame in history and all the stuff that was going on, and it just sounds like majority of evil people were in charge. And it seems like 2,000 or however many thousands of years later, that's the same thing. Like, it's clearly people in charge in most places: America, Canada, China, you know, Ukraine, obviously, Russia, China, maybe. You know, those are, you know, we know what we're told in this country, and everything we told is, again, a program, a show, propaganda. So, you know, do with that what you will. Obviously, China does sound pretty bad, and we've seen some videos on TikTok that it sounds pretty awful. But predominantly, it just seems like the people that are in charge are usually evil. They was evil 2,000 years ago when they were doing stuff in Jesus' time, and they're evil today when they're doing stuff in our time. So, for me to get behind an idea of someone actually coming to, you know, a regular dude, you know, becoming president and making everything better, it's hard to get behind that idea, you know. So again, do with that what you will. We are where we are, but that's just my opinion. Buster may have a separate opinion. I kind of have a feeling his is probably the same opinion, but I can't speak for him or any of y'all out there. I would absolutely love to hear a decent and organized and thoughtful chat in the comments about this. Again, let's not. If you've ever heard the show, you know that's not what we're about. We're not here to argue. We're not here to start a fire or irritate a bunch of people. We're here to try to, spread some information, show a little light on some shadowy areas, and talk about some fun paranormal stuff and sometimes some nerdy stuff. But that's kind of the vibe we go here. We go for a good vibe and a happy vibe and a vibe of love for everybody. So I would love to have a good discussion on that in the chat. So in the comments. So, feel free to do that. Please do. But that's going to lead us into the second portion of this episode, which is Jesus's time frame. So, just like it was back then, it seems to be now. But something I heard in this audiobook really kind of snagged me for some reason, and it's a story that's apparently in the Bible, but I've never heard it, and I guess I just never read at that part. But it's regarding this person named Simeon, and apparently this person was at the temple when the baby Jesus was brought in to, I can't remember if it was circumcision or what have you, but to be seen. And he met them at the door, and he was checking the babies, apparently. And he basically took the baby Jesus in his arms and declared, he said this poem or whatever, and he said, this is our Messiah. This will be the one to, take us, into the good times. Basically declaring he was the Messiah. This random guy held the baby and declared that he was who he would be. So that just struck me as interesting. I had never heard that. So I started digging, as we often do as researchers, and I looked up Simeon from the Bible and read a little bit about him. And then towards the end of it, there was a, references or check this thing, and it said something about Simon Magus, or Magus, magician, however you want to translate that. And that's what struck me, is that word usually means magician, sorcerer, magic, that kind of stuff. So I started doing some digging, and I got to do some more research on this. I just really kind of stumbled on this. There's a buttload more, so I'll try to bring that to you as well, maybe in a follow-up episode, or as part of another episode where I fill Buster in on some stuff. We'll talk more about it. But this guy named Simon de Magus, more or less, and he was a person who lived around that time frame and was a sorcerer, and he declared himself to be the Christ, and he would say that he was invincible or immortal. He would perform sorceries and tricks and things like that. It just, in my mind, it's probably not what he looked like, but in my mind, I just get like a Jafar from Aladdin. I know that's probably not what he looks like, but by the description of this person and just their mannerisms and the way they acted, that was just the image that I got. This, darker character who had, some sorceries, and he would tell women that he was, all these things, and that he could do these tricks. And apparently in one of the legends, or in the stories, he has an argument with one of the disciples, Peter or Paul, I can't remember. I should have had this info in front of me, but it's been a while since we recorded, and it's an early morning, so bear with me. Again, we'll follow up, because it's there. I've actually found an old paper this guy wrote in like the 1800s that's like very long. So I'm going to do some more research on it, because I feel like these people from the Bible that we've never heard of, or that we've never explored, they're in that time frame, but they're just never spoken of. Like, how interesting is that? Someone who lived in Jesus's time, saw all these things that transpired, or at least knew about them, actually heard about them, and their story is just gone. But like we have some of the books in the Bible by other people are written, you know, 2, 3, 4 hundreds of years after Jesus. So I found it really interesting that I had found someone who apparently has a pretty lengthy story, but just really hasn't been told that much. So Simon Magus, again, he claimed himself to be the Christ and the Messiah, which I thought was very interesting. And apparently, he had an argument at one point with one of the disciples, Peter or Paul. Again, I have to follow up. I'm sorry. And Simon allegedly said, "I can make myself. I can fly. I can levitate. That kind of thing." And he did in this, you know, area with spectators and everything. And he floated up into the air, and he told this person, he told Peter or Paul, that if your God is real, may he, you know, take me down. And Peter, I'm pretty sure it's Peter, I'm sorry, knelt down and started to pray to God, and he came down. Like, he brought him down. Like, he fell. I think he actually broke a bone or something. Like, he hurt himself. Like, he fell out of the air. So I was kind of blown away again, because I'd never heard these stories, and I thought that was really very interesting. So that's kind of a tie-in, because at the same time that made me start thinking the Simon or the Simeon person, the etymology of it is what led me to Simon or Simon or Simon, or however you want to pronounce that for said areas. But I was looking up the etymology of it, and that's what led me to Simon or Simon Magus. And for Simeon in the Bible, he's portrayed as an older man, but it never actually gives a legitimate account of how old he is. So, of course, my mind started working that what if Simon Magus and Simeon were the same person? You know, someone with clearly a divinational, I don't know if that's a word, a talent for divination, or, you know, latent psychic ability, at least, to where you can declare, and, you know, you have a message from God or what have you, to be able to declare this baby will be the Messiah. And then you have this other guy at a later date claiming that he is the Messiah, and he is the one, he is the Christ, etc., etc. And he's doing all these things that could be misconstrued as miracles. And it's just very interesting that we had this whole other person doing the same things, that are doing some of the same things, doing even other things than Jesus was at his time. So again, you can do your own research. Simon Magus, Magus, look it up if you want to. Um, Again, I'll definitely do a follow-up episode. I have it saved on my computer, that huge paper this dude wrote. So I've got to look into that a little bit more. But I thought it'd be really interesting just to break this story off a little bit this morning. And I had to touch on the whole Trump shenanigans, and how I don't know what's going to happen, guys. I wish I did. I really wish I did. Usually I'm pretty good about picking through. I can see through the BS, but sometimes they make the BS so murky it's hard to see what's under it. So I'm assuming that this whole Trump thing is a distraction for people not to realize about what's going to happen with the US dollar, and likely crypto is about to have a big move up or down. I'm not sure. People are saying both, of course. There's always experts saying everything, right? People don't know what's going to happen with the stock market. It's just, it's more crazy times, you know? And I feel like it's getting crazier. I just seen the other day that CERN, and I think I put this on Twitter, probably today or yesterday, that CERN is now saying that they can detect time or whatever so well, whatever they're doing down there, Lord knows. But anyway, that it could lead to us having a 25-hour day. So, and which is weird, because I'm pretty sure that's what Mars has. I'm pretty sure Mars it's either 23 or 25. It's not 24 hours. So I find that to be interesting too, because again, you have to excuse my brain this morning, but I firmly remember seeing an article and reading a story about how when astronauts are in space, their not biological clock, circadian rhythm, um, naturalizes to Mars time, not Earth, but Mars's day. Which again, I can't remember if it's either 23 or 25, but it's interesting that we have all this weird stuff going on. There's weird stuff in space this year and last year, with different alignments, weird freaking meteors that only come once every 50,000 years. Um, we've got a solar storm every week, just about. I mean, I've been on this for a year now, and no one seems to. That's likely some other crap that they're keeping below the surface because no one is saying anything about. I see a couple different articles of like scientific articles, here and there. But in the news, it's not actually getting anything. Um, that's not normal. Like for this things to keep happening like this. Like just the other week, people in northern North Carolina or in the mountains could have seen the northern lights. The last time that was recorded was near the Carrington event, which was in the oh god, we did an episode on it, the 1800s, where the energy was so intense it fried um, telegraph lines. It sent so much energy through them it caught fire in the telegraph line offices. So like, if you're having trouble the last, I don't know, freaking year with your phones, your internet, your Wi-Fi, well, I guess it's the same thing, but you know what I mean, your cable, all these things are affected by that. And if we're having the ability to almost see the northern lights in northern North Carolina and having one of these solar storms, like again, once a week, once every other week, something like that. I mean, go look. The articles are there. I did this episode, I don't know, maybe this season. Probably this season I talked about it. So it's there's a lot of weird stuff going on. Obviously, you have people in charge of countries that really are doing their best to harm the people in those countries. And again, no one really talks about that. I know we talk about how bad our leaders suck, but it's like they're doing everything possible in our bigger countries to hinder us. And, we talk about how, oh man, they're really not good leaders, but they're literally doing everything they can to hurt or poison us, especially in America. Again, we're fed propaganda for pretty much everything else except for on TikTok, which I'm convinced is why they're trying to ban that. Man, we're really bouncing around today. I need Buster to keep me on track. But I don't know. So much weird stuff going on. So much weird stuff. Uh, but we can't give up. We've got to keep our heads up, and we just got to hope. We try to, like our intro says, be the light. We try to give you guys news, but with a decent, attitude. But right now, it's just, gosh, it's confusing out there. But we are, people in our positions have not given up for 2,000 years. We've fought, we've died, we've put our bodies on the machine, and every now and then we've broken cycles. And history would not be here without those that broke cycles. So we just got to keep going until we have a chance to break it. And hopefully we'll break it without too much of us breaking. But we just got to hope, and we got to stay together. We got to choose love. That's important. So whatever you do today, choose the love option. You know, that's all. That's all I got for today. But if you made it this far, you can't even imagine how appreciative I am, and Buster is as well. We all are here at Last Wave, and everything that we do for everybody else. We enjoy this, and we hope somebody out there enjoys it. Lord knows we don't make no money doing it, but we get together and we talk about the truth as best as we can give it to you. And right now, that's all anybody can do in this world. So I wish every single person that listens to this, I wish you health and wealth, happiness, every kind of prosperity that you can have. And I hope that you wish that on everybody else that you know. But from us to you, we love you. You are worthy. You are needed. Keep your head up. And the only way we get through this is together. All right. That's all I got for today. Appreciate you listening. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. We'll chat. Catch you on the next one.